In this world, there are very few people who have the courage to start over their lives from zero. You can think that such people are crazy, but they're not. They're just stronger than us. I'll tell you about one of those young men. He was born in a poor family. His parents didn't have enough money to buy him good clothes or shoes. So when he grew up and started working in a factory, his colleagues laughed at him for wearing patch-top shoes. To make matters worse, he wasn't a good student and eventually dropped out of school. All this made him feel bad about himself. At night, when he was alone, he looked up at the sky and wondered why his life was so hard. One day, something happened that made him even more upset. The owner of the factory fired him. "You work so poorly. It's better that you leave," the boss told him. And after that, he threw the young man out into the street. The guy walked around the city for a long time. Finally, when it got dark, he called his mom and asked her to pick him up. She did. When she heard what had happened to her son, his mother burst into tears. She felt sorry for him because his father had passed away a few years earlier and now her son had nowhere to go. So the woman took him in. The next morning, the young man woke up early. He knew that he couldn't stay at home doing nothing. He had to do something with his life. Then he remembered the words of an old homeless man who once asked him for some money. "If you want to live well, you need to read," the old man said. And the young man realized that the problem was that he couldn't read. Although he went to school, he could barely sign his name. So the first thing he did was ask his mom for a book and learn to read. It took him weeks to learn how to read and write, but he didn't stop there. He began to read books on various topics, and this changed him as a person. Around that time, the young man learned about Edward Blyton, an American who became the youngest billionaire in history. But his success story didn't last long. By 2008, Belton lost everything. In fact, he even had to sell his car. But instead of giving up, he started from scratch again. And soon he was making more money than he had ever made before. The young man was inspired by this story. He understood that if Billadian could start all over again, then so could he. He wanted to become strong, smart, and rich. And most importantly, he wanted to be respected by people. He decided to take his personal growth seriously. He began to develop a habit of reading 30 pages every day, doing exercises in the morning, and learning something new. At first, it was hard for him. He felt lazy and tired. But then he thought about how ashamed his father would be if he found out that his son was too lazy to get out of bed. That motivated him to keep going. In addition to improving his mind and body, the young man also worked hard. First, he got a job as a waiter in a restaurant. The work wasn't difficult, but his colleagues were unpleasant. They tried to make fun of him, but he didn't care. He was focused on his goal, and nothing could stop him. A year later, he left this job and became a salesman in a clothing store. The salary was higher, and he liked his new job. After another year, he was promoted to manager. Now he could afford to buy new shoes and clothes, but he didn't forget where he came from. He still wore simple clothes. In the evenings, the young man continued to read books, train in the gym, and learn new skills. Little by little, he began to grow as a person and change his life for the better. And finally, after 5 years, he opened his own business. Today, everyone knows him as a smart and successful businessman. People invite him to various shows as an expert and successful entrepreneur. Also, he has a lot of friends and a beautiful wife. And the most important thing is that the young man is happy with his life. This is a great example of how you can turn your life around no matter how difficult your situation is. It's like the story of a young man who lost his eyesight. He was born in 1974 in South Africa. His name was Shane. From birth, the boy saw perfectly fine. He played sports, rode a bike, and dreamed of becoming a police officer. But at the age of 9, Shane's life changed drastically. The boy developed retinitis pigmentosa. It's a rare disease that gradually takes away a person's sight. When the doctors confirmed this diagnosis, Shane's world turned upside down. Of course, he was very scared. He didn't know how to adapt to living without sight. But the most difficult thing was to accept his new reality. Shane experienced severe depression. Even his closest friends stopped inviting him to hang out. They didn't know what to do with the blind guy. For many years, Shannon struggled with his inner demons. He was angry at the world for taking away his health. He hated his parents for not being able to help him. He hated himself for being weak. But then Shannon met a wise mentor who taught him that no matter how difficult life is, you can always find a way out. The main thing is not to give up. Shannon followed his mentor's advice and started doing adaptive sports. He learned to swim, run, and ride a bike. Blind people from all over the world competed in these competitions, and Shane won several gold medals. After that, he began to travel around the country, sharing his experience with other people with disabilities. And when Shannon turned 30, he married and adopted a baby girl. She's been blind since birth, but her adoptive parents teach her that she can do anything. As you can see, these people could easily have surrendered to their fate, but they didn't. Instead, they fought for their happiness and achieved incredible results. Some people will say that these are just stories. They have nothing to do with our life, but it's not true. These stories teach us to be kind and help those in need. They remind us that even in difficult situations, we shouldn't give up. There are many similar stories, but I'll tell you one more. Once upon a time in a village in the mountains, there lived a young man who suffered from dwarfism. Because of this disease, the guy was very short. People made fun of him, so he locked himself in his house. But one day, his mother forced him to go outside. She took him to the town square, where there was a crowd of people. "Go show everyone that you're not afraid of them," his mother told him. The woman wanted her son to overcome his fear of people. At first, the young man refused. He was shaking all over, but then he straightened his shoulders and began to walk slowly through the square. People stopped laughing at him and began to clap. They were surprised that the guy wasn't afraid of them. From that moment on, the young man went out into the streets every day. He was still afraid, but he was proud that he was overcoming his fear. Soon, the whole town knew him. People invited him to various events. They treated him with respect and even asked him for advice. That's right. You don't have to be perfect to be happy. Sometimes it's enough just to overcome your fears and believe in yourself. And if you do, you'll succeed. All the people whose stories I told you today were ordinary people. They had their advantages and disadvantages, strengths and weaknesses. But most importantly, they never gave up. They kept moving forward and eventually achieved what they wanted. I hope you liked these stories. If you did, please leave a comment and like.